This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so if you remember yesterday, the topics that we had discussed were we had started with a new object that is called as views, right? As you already know, that view is object of the data dictionary. That means on the database, just like we create tables and store them physically in our database, similarly, views are also created and stored physically as an independent object of our database. Okay, but other than tables, like tables store the definition, that is the structure, as well as the actual data along with them. But views, they only store the definition. They do not have their own data. So when we query the view, they get the data from where? They get actually the data from the base table to which they are connected to, right? So there are two categories of views. That is the one that we have discussed yesterday. That is simple view and complex view. So which views are called as simple views and which one is called as complex views? Views basically which are based on single table. Then the ones they do not have groupings or aggregates or joins or group by clauses, etc. They are called as simple views. And the advantage of a simple view is you can perform DML operations through a simple view. So when you can perform a DML operation through a simple view, basically those operations are in turn done on the table on which they are based. Whereas if a view is complex view, that means it is based on multiple tables or the other activities. Then in that case, I can query the view, but directly I cannot perform DML operations on it. Okay. So this is what a recap of yesterday's session. And this is how we created a view. Create view name as, and then the query. In what format, whatever is the result of the query will be the definition of that view. Now, as you can see here, the one that I'm highlighting, this is a complex view. Okay. Why is it complex view? Because it is based on multiple tables here, right? Which is having a join between department and employee table. Now, if
So
I'm
in a
trying
way,
to, yes,
without using joins, we cannot use two tables.
obviously.
Okay.
Now, if I'm trying to perform some DML operations on this view, for example, if I'm saying delete from V2 or if I'm trying to insert data in V2, then it is going to throw an error that operations on this view are not possible. Okay. Now, view with expressions means what? You can create a view which is based on an expression. If you, I would like to take you again back to the RDBMS session. There is something called as derived attribute. Okay, that means there are some columns which are not needed to be stored physically. Like for example, age of an employee is a derived attribute. Okay, so such columns which are not to be stored physically, they can be runtime calculated. So through a view, it is an advantage of a view which can be shown, which are columns not present actually in the table. See, there are two, what I can say, major uses. When I'm talking about view, there are two major purposes of a view. That is, the first one is abstraction, that we have already talked about. And there is one more important use is to,
Can you please give a little more connection to abstraction? Maybe spend 3 or 4 more minutes.
uh, I think we have discussed it yesterday, isn't it?
Just maybe 2 minutes on reconnect me to abstraction. Because abstraction is a concept which is used in all programming languages. And what is basically abstraction with respect to SQL?
I want to hide some details of the data from the user which he or she is not supposed to view.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that is called as view level abstraction. There are three levels of abstraction: physical level abstraction, conceptual level abstraction, and the highest level of abstraction of a data is basically a view level abstraction. That means the on a particular base table, you can create multiple views of the same data,
Mm-hmm.
and the person who is not supposed to view the other part of the database will be only given a particular view to him. For example, I have started SQL Server. It's going to take some time to open it because I have restarted the machine, so it is doing a lot of activities. Let us discuss the other uh, use of view by the time we are waiting for it. The other view,
Okay.
the other use of the view is to make complex queries easier. Means what? For example, I am using a very complicated query in my program. Okay, that is
Mm-hmm.
the query is based on, let's say, 10 tables join, and
Mm-hmm.
each table is having 50 lakhs of records.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a very complex where condition in it. There are multiple subqueries used in those joins. There are correlated subqueries used there. Then there are aggregate functions. There are multiple group by clause. There is all in all a very complex order by clause used. So all in all, this query is very complex. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and such query I require, let's say, 80 times in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that every time I fire this query, every time it goes to the server, every time it goes through a process. You know that whenever I fire a query, it goes to a server and it goes under some processes. And those processes are like parsing, binding, fetching, and execution. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like a compilation, different stages of compilation. Okay, so what happens is every time you send that query to execution, every time it gets compiled and comes to you. So there is a to and fro traffic involved for the execution. So a lot of IO is involved, and the server is all the time busy doing the same thing all over again and again. Instead
Mm-hmm.
of that, what I can do is I can keep the same query as a definition of a particular view.
Mm-hmm.
So the same query will be a view. So for a view, I'll create this query, define this query, and then only once I'll create the view in the compiled format, which will be the object of that database, and I'll simply say select star from view.
Mm-hmm.
So in such a way, it becomes easier for me to, make the complex queries easier. So we can create a view for such queries and use a view.
So the four
So
steps are parsing, binding, fetching, and compilation.
yeah, so the view's definition will be already compiled, right? So every
Mm-hmm.
time the query does not have to go to the database and get compiled and come with a result. It will be now
Mm-hmm.
an object of my database, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
directly query that object.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a better way of using a particular set of records.
Mm-hmm.
So that to make complex queries easier, I will create a view for them and use them as views. Okay, that is one
Mm-hmm.
more advantage of using a view rather than only abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think we have created some views yesterday
Mm-hmm.
too. Okay, so the views will be available in the database TSQL2. Just below tables, we have got something views. As you can see, these are the definitions. View V3, suppose we have taken, and you can see the design of that view, and it will tell you that the view is complex view. It is based on EMP and DPT table, and this is the definition of that view,
Mm-hmm.
as you can see, right?
Okay.
So, uh, so if I'm trying to perform any DML operation on such views, then it will be a wrong DML operation, right?
So
So
these two tables are shown as joint.
yeah, that was a definition of the view. So if I say delete from V3, that means I'm trying to delete data and it will not allow me to delete because it says it affects multiple base tables. Okay, so it has got connection with other tables, which is not possible. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm saying delete from V1, it will allow me to do so because that's a simple view. It is based on one table, no aggregates, no group by clauses, etc. etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I may create one more view. Let's say I'm create view V4. Okay, or I'll just create, first I'll drop this view, drop view V1, and I'll create a schema. Create view V1, and what you say as, and then you say select empno, ename, and dptno from emp, where my view is not based for all the column rows. It
Mm-hmm.
is where condition is there, where dptno is equal to 10. Right. So what is the level of abstraction that I am achieving through it? When I say select star from V1, what I get here is I will be able to only view records of department 10. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
the other department's data is abstracted from the user, the one that I've logged in as.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I log in with my own credential, I do not have access to employee table. I don't even know that employee table exists in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I get is I get to work on V1. So obviously I do not interact with any other departments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, I was talking about the aggregates, sorry, the values that can be given, computed expressions in the view. Now, let us say I'll create one more view, V1 again. I'm going to say create view V1 as select something something. Here I am having salary, salary, department number, and I can have something more which was not there in the table, which is annual salary. So this expression is not a part of my table, but I can include it in the view. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this thing is called, this is a computed column. Okay. This is a
Mm-hmm.
derived attribute. But whenever I'm using these expressions, these are not part of tables, isn't it? So what I need to do is it is mandatory for me to give an alias to such expressions if you are using expressions in the view. So I'll say ANSAL, that is annual salary. So now this can be referred just like a column name through the view. Fine. So I'll remove the where clause here. So now the definition of my view is I am having one computed column here, which is having alias as ANSAL, which is not present in original employee table, right? So a view is created. Now when I'm saying select star from V1, every time it will compute and every time it will show me answer, if you can see this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So along with my original table, I also have a derived attribute here. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'll add a new record, whenever I will insert a new value, or whenever I'll update a salary, accordingly the ansal salary, ansal values will also get changed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's not one time activity. It will
Mm-hmm.
keep on updating according to the database values.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a computed column or an expression, but the alias is mandatory in it. Okay. So what does it say is, if you make changes to a particular table, then accordingly the salary values will also get changed. Okay, now what are the restrictions? Restrictions in the table. If you are using annual salary or the updations view is, while adding a new record, it is not possible to add a value to the derived column. Similarly, the derived column cannot be updated. So let us say what are these 2 points, what are these 2 restrictions means. Okay, I'm going to create a view v1 on copy empty table. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to use this table e-copy, okay, which has got this salary column. Now, what are the columns here? Number, name, job, etc., etc. And then there is a salary column, right? So I'm going to use this table. I'm going to create a view v1 which will be based on table e-copy. Okay, fine. So I'm going to say select start from v1. So what all data we get here is, we get an additional column called as annual salary, which is what, 1600 multiplied by 12, 1250 multiplied similar. So whatever salary, it will be multiplied by the value 12. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to insert. Okay, first let me know, can I perform DML operations on this view?
No.
Let us try. I'm going to insert a record through this particular view. Okay. So I'm going to say insert into v1. Okay. And I'm going to provide values to it. Values. What values I'll provide? 101. Name is ABC. And then I'm going to give salary 300 and department number 10. Fine. Let us say what happens. what happened? It says update or insert of view or function v1 failed because it contains derived or constant fields,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's a restriction that that a particular view has. So for example, I'm trying to insert a value, that is insert into a view name values for salary. Now what will happen if I provide a value, that is if I provide a value here that is called as, let's say, 300 into 12. Can I do this? Still it is not allowed, isn't it? Now what will happen if I have to provide column names? EMPNO, E-name, SAL, and department number, or the other way, department number and SAL. Now I'm specifying which columns I want to add. So employee number, employee name, then I'm providing department and then salary, right? So the rest of the things I'm not providing. Number, name, department and salary, right? So now let us check. Now what happened? It allowed me to enter the record, isn't it? Are you getting the difference between the two?
Mm-hmm.
Now I am going to cross check what has happened to the data. Okay, so how will I check it? I'll say select star from V1, that is my view. Execute. So if you can see this first record 101, what it has done is it has on its own calculated the value, that is 3600. Getting my point? So explicitly I cannot provide value for sal star 12. Did you understand this? Should we go ahead?
Yeah.
So I just provided values for the other columns explicitly, and I skipped the annual salary column, and then it calculated on its own. Similarly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the value of 3600. Now see, what I want you to focus on is I want you to focus on this value. I'm going to change this value 3600 from 36 to 4600. Okay, so for employee 101 we are going to do that, right? So let us perform which DML operation I'll do for it. Which DML I'll use?
Mm-hmm. Not, no idea.
How do you change the values?
Change. Update.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll say update, update table or update view. What?
Mm, the update view.
Right. So I'll say update v1 and I'll say set and sal equal to 4600 where EMPNO equal to 101.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I'm going to update it. What does it say? I cannot update the column which is having derived values.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I say set salary is equal to 400, where employee is equal to 101. So if I do that, it is allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. So if I am updating any other column, select star from V1. If I am updating any other column, it is definitely allowed. See, it has now made it 48,000, 4,800.
Mm-hmm.
So I can change the columns, but I cannot change the derived columns, or I cannot explicitly insert the data for derived columns. They are
Mm-hmm.
computed columns, they will do their job on their own. You cannot intervene.
Mm-hmm.
Getting it?
Yeah, right.
And these are the two restrictions that we have practically seen through it, right? Now I can apply where clause to them, like where and sal is greater than something. I can use functions on them, like for example select max of and sal, etc. So I can definitely use like select star from view where and sal greater than 3000.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever is the answer, it will give me all of them are having more than, or where and sal is greater than 5000, right? So all of them where and sal is more than 5000. So I can use it as a part of condition checking, right? But I cannot explicitly make changes to the column.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now summary views. Okay, that is complex views. We have seen one example of a complex view wherein there was a join between EMP and DEPT table. Now
Mm-hmm.
there can be another example with where it can be considered as a complex view. As you can see here, there is a view getting created, and the view has what? It has got an aggregate function which is max of sal and a group by clause coming along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this definition of view V5 makes it a complex view.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I am performing any DML operations of such a view, then it is going to throw error. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I cannot directly perform. I can take help of some trigger. So triggers will help me perform the DMLs through them, but not like single views. Okay, fine. Now there is something called as with check option, which we can use to keep a check on the data that is getting inserted through a view. Okay, so let me just show you how to use this with check option. I'm going to create a simple view. I'll just check the contents of eCopy table. Okay, I cannot use eCopy. I'll use some other table. Okay, we can use EMP copy table. Fine. So I am creating a view V11, which is a simple view. Okay, there are no complications. Just a minute. Okay, so there are no complications. It's a simple view. And after creating this view, let us cross check. Select star from V11. Okay, when I say that, what kind of data do I get? So can you tell me that what is the purpose of this view?
Mhm. Just tells the two things, employee copy, select these four things with department number of 20.
Yes, department number of 20. That is the purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? That means this view is meant for department 20,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So it will only fetch me the details of department 20 and no other data.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm? And uh, so what is expected is that users of the system should only access department 20's data through this view,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm going to insert. I can perform DMLs on it because it's a simple view, isn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a row through this view. I'm going to say insert into V11, and what all values I'm going to insert for it. I'm going to provide values as uh, employee 101, then ename is equal to something, and salary is 3000, department is 10. I am providing department as 10. Should it allow department 10 row getting inserted through V11?
Didn't get the question.
See, what is the where condition? The where condition is the view is meant for department 20,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? And
Yes.
through the same view, I am inserting a record for department 10. So is it correct?
Can't say.
Should it be acceptable?
So values are insert into view may real values. Again, can't say. Not confident. Do not have a reason.
See, my question is the view is meant for department 20, and through the same view I am inserting a record of department 10. So logically it is not correct, isn't it? If it is meant for 20, it should not accept data for 10,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let us try and insert the same record. It is accepting. That
Mm-hmm.
means the very purpose of creating a view for department 10 or 20 is not getting fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if it is meant for 20, it should only accept or modify data of 20 and not any other records.
Mm-hmm.
So how we can achieve it? Let me just check one thing. Okay, so I altered the view. You know now what is alter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alter option. And I'm added one more line to the definition of the view that is called as with check option. It's a constraint that you can apply. Okay, what does this with check option do? It keeps a check on the data that is coming through DML. Okay, and what check? It always checks that is the data according to the where condition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I am going to insert one more record, that is record of 102, but this time again I am going to keep 10. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
So let us insert the record. What does it say? If you can see the error, the attempt to insert failed because it specifies which check option and whatever the statement has been terminated.
Mm-hmm.
So now it is checking that the value that you are inserting is 20. It is not 20, it is 10. What will happen if I make it 20? Let us try to insert. Affected. Getting my point?
Mm-hmm.
So with check option, it checks for the correctness of the data. So
Mm-hmm.
if your view is meant for department 20, it will only accept values of department 20. Or if
Mm-hmm.
your view was meant for salary more than 2000, it will only accept 2000 and more salaries. So whatever is
Mm-hmm.
your where condition, accordingly it will check and then only accept the data through the view,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? Otherwise, anybody who can use view can manipulate the base table.
Mm-hmm.
That should not happen.
Okay.
So this is a care which is taken. So the one who is having access to the view should not have access to the entire table.
Mm-hmm.
So the with check option is allowing me to do that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
fine. Now, aliases. Generally, what happens is the original column names they become the column names of the view, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like as you can see here, if I say select star from V11. So if I do that, this original column names, number, name, sal, department number, the table names column, they become the columns of the view also.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not mandatory. You can give their own aliases. For example, when I create a view into bracket, I can decide that ENO, EMP name, salary spelled completely, and department underscore number. This I want to be the aliases. Okay. And now if I say select star from V11, can you see the column headings?
Mm-hmm.
They have changed. So the aliases that you have taken, so each column gets its respective alias.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not necessary that the column names of the tables should be projected same as the columns of the views.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could have given aliases here also. EMPNO space NO. ENAME space EMP name. So either way you can give aliases. That will come as alias column heading for view. Now
Mm-hmm.
a view can be based on another view also, right? They're called as hierarchical views. For example, generally what we have seen so far is a view is based on a table, right? But it is
Mm-hmm.
not mandatory all the time. A view is based on another view, and that view in turn is based on a table,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, for example, here I'll not now practically do it. End effect is going to be same. So I'll just tell you the concept here. Here you see that there is a view called as clerk data. What is that view? It is telling me select star from EMP where job is equal to clerk with check option. You know now what is with check option. So this
Mm-hmm.
view, clerk data view, is only meant for all the employees who are clerks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now there may be multiple employees working in there may be multiple clerks working in multiple departments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so clerk data becomes a parent view, and from this parent view I create multiple child views.
Mm-hmm.
So for each department I create one more view. For example, I have created one more view called as clerk 10, which is based on not table but based on clerk data.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is basically we took a subset of table, and from that subset we created one more subset.
Mm-hmm.
So create view clerk 10, which is based on select star from clerk data where department is 10.
Mm-hmm.
So in short, this view will give me what? All clerks of only department 10,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is the difference. They are called as hierarchical views. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nesting limit of view is 32. So it's a big capacity. That means a view can be based on another view. Like this, you can go to the 32nd level.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. So that was about views and their different portions. Now I have two questions. I have this EMP copy table, right? That
Mm-hmm.
has got E number, or maybe we can take help of some other people. Sorry. I'm going to select star from V1. So the definition of V1 is based on what? It is based on e-copy table. Okay. So e-copy table is basically having what? Number, name, salary, department, and answer. Okay. Don't put that. Let's take a simple view. Okay, I'm going to take V2, which is based on I created a table called as ABC, which has two columns, X int and Y int. Now I'm going to create a view. I'm going to say create view VV as select star from ABC. Right? So I created a view. So the table name is ABC and I created a simple view on it. Right? Now let us check select star from VV. Obviously it doesn't have any data, but it is working properly. Right? Now there are some things about existence. Tell me, can I drop view V1?
What would happen even if you drop? Yes, you can drop view.
Obviously I can drop view V1 because it is an independent object of the database.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the view will be dropped. Good. Tell me,
Mm-hmm.
can I drop table ABC?
Drop table. Create table. Create view. I mean, the view is getting inherited from table. If we drop table, then the view doesn't exist. So probably we cannot drop table.
Okay. So let's say I'm going to say drop table ABC. Fine. And I'm going to execute this command. It is dropped. It is no more present in the database.
Mm-hmm.
So I am able to drop the table because these two are physically present. They have their own existence. Now tell me, what do you think? I have dropped the table. The command is successfully executed. What must have happened to the view? Because it is a dependent object, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So what must have happened to the table? Sorry, view.
Yeah, so table got deleted, then I think
Hmm.
view would not exist.
So I have refreshed view. Let us see what has happened to the view. The name of the view is VV. The view is still present,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? The view is still present. So what will happen if I say select star from VV? Now I have dropped the table, right? See what happens is when you drop a table, base table, the view does not get dropped, but the status of the view becomes invalid. Is that fine?
Mm-hmm.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the base table again, but with the same definition. Okay, that is important. It has to be recreated with the same definition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to create the view, sorry, the table again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
What is the status? What is the status of the view? What will happen now if I say select star from view?
Can't say.
See, it becomes still invalid, but when you call the view for the first time after you create a table, then the view will again become valid.
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
Okay.
So this is how it again points to that object and gets data from there. But then the view has to be based on the same table with the same definition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's what we have seen so far. We discussed about aliases, we discussed about uh, computed columns in view, for example, just to mention. Then DMLs on view having computed column, right? Then we talked about with check option. Then hierarchical views we talked about. What else we talked about? Existence of view after the table is dropped, right? So I may have missed one or two points, but this is like overall conversation that or the demos that we have seen about the
Mm-hmm.
views. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that was all about views as such.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, you can, as and when you create view, you will be able to notice the functionality and usefulness of this object.
Mm-hmm. So DB in the DB we see tables, views. If you can take me to the SQL view. Yeah, tables, views, database diagrams, synonyms, programmability, service broker, storage, and security. Mm-hmm. Databases, system database, database snapshots. Is there something called as database snapshot, right? So we
Hmm.
at a given time we take a snapshot, we save it, and all that data
Hmm.
is called a snapshot at that stage.
Hmm. It is
And then
stored.
is there
It's
something?
like it's like a backup type. Means if sometimes your data goes down or your server goes
Is
down,
there something called flashback?
so it's sort of the same thing. So at that point, even if your data gets changed, this holds the old image of the data.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, got it.
Now, there is something called a schema binding concept. Okay, so what is a schema binding clause? See, it's like there are multiple sides, that is front end and back end. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
how does this work? Is like there are different tables. Okay, and then these tables, they have got different views, right? So a table may be based on one view or it may be based on multiple views, right? So there is a view v1, v2. v1 is based on all tables, v2 is based on only 3 and 4. Okay, now this is the backend type. What happens on the front end side? On the front end side, there is on the front end side, there is something on the front end side. We have a application like forms application, which is for user one. So there are multiple users interacting with some forms. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
form 1, form 2, like that. So this is overall picture. Okay, users do not interact with table directly. They basically, as you can see here, the user is interacting with a front-end application. That front-end
Mm-hmm.
application is getting data from a view, and
Mm-hmm.
the view in turn is getting or fetching data from a table on which it is based.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now,
In fact, all front-end and web applications must be dependent on views rather than table straight. I mean, that
most
would be
of the
something
times,
there is
most
that would
of
be
the
something
times.
desirable.
Yes, because see, data is an asset for the company. You cannot lose data. So at
Mm-hmm.
the max, if you can, you should abstract the, because there is only one copy of the table on the database.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot just give access to the entire table to each and every user.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a description of the diagram. So I'll not again go to that. So if view becomes orphan, then it will have direct impact on the users. This is the last line is what I want to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
If a view becomes orphan, then it will have direct impact on the users. What does it mean?
Don't know.
We just saw the demo of it, isn't it? If I drop the table, the view will become orphan. That is, it will become invalid, which will directly affect the front-end applications, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if table 3 is dropped, then the applications which are using the view V1, let's say I'm talking about V2. V2 is based on what? Table 3 and table 4. If I drop these two tables, then the view will become orphan, and all the applications which are using form 2 will be they will be invalid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So schema binding clause, there is a clause called a schema binding. Uh, in the views definition, it is used to resolve this issue. Because the base tables, because of this clause, we cannot drop the base table if the view is created on it. Please read the last line again.
Mm-hmm.
Did you understand?
Right.
So what we need to do is when we create a view, we should use this clause called a schema binding. So what will be the effect of it is it will not allow me to drop the table if it has dependent object view on it, so that the view will not become orphan and it will not have any cascading effect on the forms. Getting my point?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that? Is this. See, create view, name of the view, and you specify here with schema binding. Okay, and then you specify select name, etc. dbo.emb. Now these two lines are important, which are highlighted. With schema binding is the clause, and then you will have to specify the EMB table, because in one schema, which schema you are talking about. So that DBO is important. DBO is the name of that schema. Okay, in this case.
Mm-hmm.
It prevents table on which the view is based getting dropped or altered. So you cannot drop or alter the table if the view is based on that table. The two-part naming convention has to be used, that is owner name dot table name. So if you are using with schema binding in your view, then the table name has to be owner's table name, because it has to know which table you are talking, because there may be multiple tables in different schemas,
Mm-hmm.
right? So whenever you are using with schema binding, it is compulsory that you have to specify table name dot owner name dot table name.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a view in this fashion, and when I say drop table name, it will throw error.
Mm-hmm.
So that it will take, it will make sure that the forms will all the time work. So you cannot drop or alter the table if it is made with schema binding. So schema binding clause is applicable for user-defined functions, indexed views, and views. Function, the other objects we have not discussed so far.
Okay.
Is it fine?
Okay, it's fine.
Fine. So should we go to the next topic?
You want to continue SQL?
As you said, I don't have any problem. It's up
I
to you.
think, so how are we placed now? Uh, it is like July last week, and what is your this thing
Um, I'm
plan? Or,
think I'm looking at Excel. Um, Probably today may be the last lecture of Excel.
mm,
If
have you?
not today, then maybe next Saturday for sure. But probably today it will end.
Okay.
So we can use that time also for
Yeah.
SQL.
Okay. That is fine. That is good. Okay, then let's catch up in say 15 minutes.
Okay.